You're listening to Power Talk, Berkeley Electric Cooperative's official broadcast about the cooperative, our communities, and ways to use energy wisely. And now, let's join our hosts for today's episode. Hello, and welcome to Power Talk. I'm Micah Ponce, the Communications Media Specialist here at Berkeley Electric Cooperative, joined as always by my co-host, Miss Libby Roig. I'm getting a little bit fast here in the morning. Slow it down. Let's bring it in. All right, Miss Libby Roig, the Director of Marketing and Communications.
Good morning, Micah. We have been at Power Talk for a couple of years now, and happy to kick off another January with lots of good content.
Made it another year, and we're still on the air.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing.
So we've got a great show for you today.
Yep. We have a special guest in-house, Mr. DJ Hampton, the President and CEO of Trident United Way.
Hello.
Hello. For folks who've listened over those years,
Yeah.
Mr. Hampton has been here before. But for the folks who haven't been exposed to you, could you remind our listeners a little bit about yourself and Trident United Way's mission?
Yeah, for the last couple of years, I've been blessed to be the CEO and president of Trident United Way. And for over 80 years, Trident United Way has been working here in the Tri-County to uplift families when they're at their hardest.
Yeah.
A lot of times that has been around financial struggles and turmoil, but it's also been around education, it's been around health. And while our models look different, whenever a family's struggling, Trident United Way is there with our group of nonprofit partners and for-profits who are there to help lift them up and get them back on their feet.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking before the show that my heat decided to it hasn't stopped working, but it's not working as it should. And, while that's an annoyance to have to try to fit that in your schedule to meet a technician, I am so fortunate to work for Berkeley Electric and to have the resources to be able to address the problem and the flexibility, too, to be able to take the time off from work to meet the technician. But so many of our families, a heating malfunction, we see this with our Operation Roundup, that provides funding, a lot of times emergency funding for HVAC repairs and things like that, that it just blows up their budget and is just an obstacle that can take months to overcome, if they ever overcome the obstacle.
Yeah, and when budgets are tight and costs keep going up, it's a challenge for a lot of families. A few years ago, we released what we call the ALICE project. United for Alice. Alice stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed. And what it did is it tried to say, here's what it actually costs for a family, a grandmother living with a grandchild, or a family of four, or a single human being here to live in this area. And what we saw is that since 2005, costs have essentially tripled in the Lowcountry.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, housing is up, and a lot of people point at housing, but
Yeah.
costs have gone up across the board.
Yeah.
The average budget now to live in Berkeley County is about $88,000 a year for a family of four, if you've got a child in childcare. Take a child out of childcare, you're still looking in the high 70,000s. It's a challenge. And what we see is 38,000 households in Berkeley County alone are in this bucket where they're making less than that threshold, that $88,000 threshold as a household, which means they're struggling to make ends meet here. They're often making very difficult choices. Across the Tri-County, it's about 38% of the households, so it's 130,000 households. And that number's a little lower here in Berkeley County. It's around 37%, but it's a challenge. And what we find is those households have, on average, less than $500 in savings. They're working hard, often multiple jobs, but just can't make ends meet. And when you have an unexpected cost pop up in your budget, you can weather that first one okay with your savings, but it's that second or third one that really becomes a challenge. Think rising food costs affect that. And so what we see is a lot of these families working hard, making incredibly tough financial decisions every day about where to put their money. And with, only about half of the cost of tariffs have been passed on to families up till now. And then we're seeing rising costs on healthcare and others. It's a real tough time out there for families. Again, working hard, paying taxes, often work multiple jobs, but just can't make ends meet.
Yeah. And unfortunately, when it comes to things that go wrong with your house, they seem to sort of cascade. They sort of come in threes at least.
Yeah.
But I mean, even in my house, we're relatively comfortable. But I mean, we had a dishwasher leaked, and then it flooded part of the laminate underneath, the subfloor underneath my laminate, and so now the floor's got to be replaced. I've got to replace the dishwasher, and I got to move everything out, and then next thing you know, the heat. My heat as well, decided to start skipping and not doing so well here when it got real cold for a while. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where even if you are, comfortable and not necessarily living paycheck to paycheck, you still have to stop and say, okay, now I've got 3 major things that I have to repair. And I mean, you got a budget for it. And I mean, and in that time, if you don't address something, they can get worse over time. Mm-hmm. So then, like you said, it's that cascading effect. It just sort of builds on top of each other. And it's hard to climb up that mountain when things start piling up.
And we're really lucky to see a number of companies like Berkeley Electric Co-op who actually provide a lot of flexibility for their employees. They have great and generous benefit packages. They really take care of their folks. Mm-hmm. But then we also at the same time see programs from Berkeley Electric Co-op, which is aimed to help those individuals weather some of those costs, averaging out your costs so you can budget month by month instead of seeing a huge jump in December when your heat kicks on or August when it's super hot outside. Yeah. We also see, weatherization and other things. Mm-hmm. And so we're really honored to work with and stand with Mike Fuller and the whole team here, who's really looking to say, how do we help all folks, all of your members really move forward in a way that makes sense? And I just got to say, the work you do is incredible. And we're just so honored to partner with you all on many of those programs. Yeah, likewise. And, you guys root your approach strategically and in data. Mm-hmm. And, you mentioned Alice and how hard a lot of families are working, but still just struggling to make those ends meet. But let's dig into a little bit more about some of those big expenses that families see as far as their cost of living pressures, housing, utilities, child care. What all are they up against these days? Yeah, some of the biggest costs is food has been now for a family of 4. It's the largest cost in a household budget. In most places, it actually costs more than their mortgage. And that's just because costs have risen anywhere from a third to half, depending on what items they are in the last 2 years alone. The second that we see is usually rent or mortgage. Mm-hmm. And then the third is usually utilities. But what we're seeing really rising at the faster rate is transportation costs. It's really hard to find a car less than $30,000 now new. Used, the costs are just unbelievably high compared to where they were 5 years ago. And our budget doesn't include the cost of actually purchasing a car. It only includes the cost of running it, so mileage, insurance, gas. When you factor that in, suddenly a family has that extra cost, but you can't work without the transportation. Right. And because costs on rent go higher and higher and higher, people are moving further and further away from work to find affordability. Yeah. And we see this compounding piece where transportation becomes one of those costs that have just gone up far faster than the others. Technology is another one. Child can't learn without at least a low-speed internet, which good news is there is subsidization from a lot of the telecom companies here. But it's still a cost, and it's hard to operate without at least a basic cell phone plan. So our budget includes that. Mm-hmm. And then we have a 10% category that is other. Yeah. Think feminine hygiene products, other things that might pop up. Nowhere in our budget does it include going out to eat. Does it include student loans? It doesn't include putting away money for savings. It's pure survival. Yeah. And then the last bucket is taxes and other costs. And so anyone can go to our website, tuw.org/Alice, and check out the data. They can drill down right to the city level or the street level and see what they are. But it's all mapped out by household. And so it does say that, for a single human being, you're probably looking at around $45,000 to live here. Yeah. For a family of 4, again, it's $88,000. Yeah. And 88 sounds like a big number. I mean, when I was a kid, that sounds like a great salary to live on and have a lot of fun and, do all the things. But today, a dollar does not go as far as it used to. And, to go back to the transportation piece, unfortunately, in our area, we don't have good public transportation. No. So if you can't afford a car, you really don't have a ton of options. I hear of a lot of folks Ubering to work, which seems to be very costly. Yes.
But you do what you have to do to get to work.
People make it work, but there's a cost to that. It's usually your time, a lack of flexibility. Suddenly, if you can't make a daycare pickup, you lose your spot at childcare. So now you're trying to find a neighbor or someone else, which is subpar education. So kids are then showing up at kindergarten on ready to learn. It's a compounding piece, and we're just really lucky to stand with a group of for-profits and nonprofits who are looking to tackle it. The other thing I will add is that since 2022, we have seen double the number of households and families coming through our centers.
Wow.
Last year, if we go look through just this last July, so 12 months ending this July, 6,200 households and families came through. In 2022, that was 3,000. We've seen a doubling in the number of people, but we've also seen a massive increase of referrals. We ended up referring 18,000 referrals from those 6,200 families. So on average, 3 different nonprofits or for-profit services were brought to them to help them work, whereas before the average was usually 1 or 2x. And so we're seeing a pretty massive spike there. And our goal is to try to say, how do we make that system work even more efficiently?
Yeah.
So those nonprofit partners and for-profits can help more, just because we expect the need to continue to go up.
Yeah, especially with all the economic pressures that came to light this year. So with the cost of food, as you mentioned, Berkeley Electric, unfortunately, had to adjust its rates in 2025. About 70% of our costs is our wholesale power costs, and those have gone up. And as a not-for-profit, we don't have much flexibility. So as our costs go up, so do our members' costs, and we see those pressures on our members because we serve everyone. And you mentioned some of the programs that we have. Prepaid billing is a program that really helps with a member's awareness of their energy usage.
Yeah, definitely.
Oftentimes for traditional billing, you'd get your electric bill at the end of the month. It's hard to think back, we did have a couple of those 20-degree days, and that's why, heat's expensive to run. That's why my power bill is up. But on prepaid, you get those daily alerts about how much energy you're using. So it's immediate of, it was cold last night, so the heat was running most of the night. But also they get to avoid disconnection, reconnection fees, late fees, of course, and a deposit too. Yep. So we see a lot of our members opting for prepaid billing.
I can't tell you the number of families that we've helped get into the program that you're talking about, just because it allows you to smooth out your budget. You can plan on it. You can bang on it. I would say that, when we step back and we look at it, the other thing that we think about is where are we against a national average? Now, we know that utility costs had not gone up significantly here in the state for, about 7 or 8 years. When we looked at the data, we're very data-driven. Yeah. We actually saw that the increases in South Carolina were some of the smallest in the country. And while we hate seeing costs go up, we at the same time understand that between Berkeley Electric Co-op and the wholesalers doing everything they can to keep costs low, that we were lucky to have a below national average increase for the first time in years, and it continues to run at one of the lowest. But it's not easy to tell someone that when they're bill is high.
Yeah. And unfortunately in South Carolina, we use electricity for everything.
Yes.
Whereas in a colder climate, they would heat with gas and be able to use equipment that is more efficient. Here it's heat pumps. And unfortunately, when it gets really cold, those heat strips are going to kick in and they're very expensive.
Well, and your weatherization programs, as well as lowering costs, everything from solar to others. I mean, the programs that Berkeley Electric Co-op and others are offering here, and the tax credits that are available at the state level really do allow families to help there. Yeah. I mean, lowering a bill by 20 or 30% in a month because they've weather stripped and put in more efficient appliances, that's a fundamental difference. That means that's dollars freed up for those other costs that individuals can avoid. And again, I can't say enough, we send so many families to those programs.
Well, and we have a loan program called Home Advantage that people oftentimes are wary about adding debt, but Home Advantage is a energy efficiency loan program that our goal is that the upgrades you make in your home, the money you're spending, the investment you're making, will lower your usage. So hopefully that loan payment is not going to be a significant increase If not, you might break even depending on how many upgrades you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's a great investment in your home if you're able to make that work.
Yeah, and I mentioned taxes a few minutes ago. If it's okay, I would love to just pull that string. As people are heading into year end, we'd really urge people to start thinking about how are they going to have their taxes done this upcoming year.
Yeah.
We and a number of our partner nonprofits provide free tax prep for families. It's really important that families start thinking about that now because there's a lot of federal credits and state credits as well as deductions that they may not know. And our tax code, I won't get into the politics of it, but is needlessly complex.
Yeah.
Especially for a family working a job or two jobs and trying to figure out life. We encourage everyone to go to a reputable tax one. They can come to us. It's free. It's a partnership with the IRS. We make sure individuals max out their credits and their deductions. We make sure they get every penny they're entitled to and to minimize their taxes so that they can keep more money in their pocket. The other thing that does is it prevents a lot of the predatory loan pieces that are happening out there. We're a state that has very few limits on not just payday loans, but tax loans ahead of time. Yeah. And so a family might go to someone who they think has their best intention at heart. They get an advance they get the money today in advance. But what happens is that these groups often run up a lot of fake deductions and things. And so they might have a 30% APR loan, so paying 30 cents on a dollar every year on that loan. Yeah. They tell them they'll qualify for $4,000 or $5,000. They'll take that loan. They really only end up getting like $1,500 or $1,800.
Yeah.
Right.
Now they're paying that entire loan plus the APR on it.
Right.
We encourage everyone to come to one of our centers if they can't afford a tax professional or to hire a tax professional if they're able to.
Yeah, and in 2025, there was some changes, particularly for seniors, to where they could potentially get a tax break depending on what their income situation is. So, I know we focus a lot on our families, but seniors too need to take this very seriously, and if they can't afford a tax professional, to come see you guys.
Yeah, we see seniors as one of the fastest growing ALICE populations simply because income is fixed, yet costs go up.
Yeah.
And when costs go up, it hits that population particularly hard. And so we would encourage anyone who needs some help. We've got a center right here, a Center for Strong Families at 500 South Live Oak in Moncks Corner. Yeah. Encourage anyone who needs to come there. They could also call 211, which is one of our numbers, or they can go to our website and plug in and connect with us that way. But we encourage anyone who is in that bucket to come talk to us sooner rather than later. Yeah. The sooner they are able to bring resources and help them figure out budgeting and other components, the more likely they'll come out of that on the other end in a much better place.
Yeah, we talked about, maybe families working multiple jobs, but if you're a senior, if you're 75, 80 years old, you're not likely going out and getting a job, much less multiple jobs. So
no, we're seeing a larger number of seniors doing that, particularly those who are taking on caretaking duties of either a child or a grandchild. Right. It's a pretty growing piece. And again, on fixed income, adding a child in the home essentially doubles your costs. Yeah. Suddenly, you've got a budget that wasn't built for that. Yeah. We recently helped a lady who came into our Moncks Corner Center. She had taken on her grandchild due to some family circumstances that had happened. And this is a woman who, worked her whole life, worked very hard, now is raising a grandchild on her own. And we were able to not only wrap the nonprofit services around her to help her, but we're able to get her through a very difficult back-to-school season by helping make sure they have all the school supplies they need so they're learning. Yeah. We continued to work with her over months to make sure that she had food deliveries regularly while they were trying to stretch every penny to the end of the month so that they could get that last bit of food. And then ultimately around Christmas time, us and other nonprofits came together to help make sure that we could check as many boxes off that list for the grandchild as possible. So there are resources there, but people have to step forward and take advantage of those.
Yeah. Well, and, it can be tough, if you're working day in and day out, finding the time to reach out for help. I'm sure it could be very difficult. Let's maybe talk a little bit about 211 and what does navigation of that look like?
Yeah, so 211 was set up after 9/11 in South Carolina, and we actually merged a help and health hotline. I'm sorry, I got to say that fast. That's a bit of a tongue twister. I got to say that more often. Here that we had developed, and we spun that off and merged it with one out of Greenville, and it became a statewide 211 network that was really coming out of there initially around disasters. How do we respond to disasters? Right. But for 20 some years now, United Ways across the state have merged our resources together to fund the 211 line. And so it's a number available in every county. People can pick up the phone and call it at any time, 24 hours a day. In many cases, there's a virtual option on there where they can navigate it themselves and put their info, or they can connect with a human being who could help them get the help and support that they need. And that service alone, here in the Tri-County, we're talking over 12,000 individuals a year call that number and get connected. We really like that because, again, it's convenient for someone. They don't have to miss a shift at work. We have people calling during their breaks.
Yeah.
But the idea is that we have a database there of all nonprofit services that someone could qualify for.
Okay.
And not only will it connect them directly to those services, but they could also then connect with us. And then we'll help them navigate those. And that to us is really the beauty of that system. It's a way for someone to get into the piece. And where we're investing right now is at our Centers for Strong Families is what we're calling family coaches. These are family coaches who come alongside a family, work with them for 12 months to 24 months, everything from budgets to making sure they're maximizing the resources they can have available, benefits at the state or federal they may not know they qualify for but do, or even taking advantage of their employer's EAP program to even bring in those extra. It's amazing how many families don't think about their employer's benefits package in there. And once we line all that up, we find families can go further. And so 211 is a way to get into that program. Another is to tend our centers. But either way, we think 211 is a really incredible resource. And if an emergency, knock on wood, was to happen here, hurricane or a human-created emergency, 211 is the state line to call to look for shelters, to find evacuation routes, to do all of those. And we will be working with a couple hundred nonprofits during emergencies to provide services, and all that database is updated hourly. During an emergency. And so that's a real key piece here. And we're just excited to be able to continue to provide that to the state as a United Way network.
Does 211 have a website component too?
It does. If you go Google real quick, 211 SC, it'll take you right to the site. That database I talked about is right there available. So people could do that anytime. They can sit in their couch or in their car and do it. But sometimes people are like, I don't want to go through a site. Then there's a human operator available for them.
Right. And you mentioned access to technology could be an obstacle for families as well. So, most folks have access to a telephone, either landline or cell phone, but, online or internet might be an obstacle.
Yeah, and we've invested significantly in 211. There's now translation services available on there, so pretty much any language can be translated. And there's a text function, so if you text the 211 number, it will automatically connect them to that database, and we've invested in the technology to allow that to be over text too. And then there's always an option to have someone call them, which is helpful.
Well, Libby mentioned obstacles, and I think one of the other obstacles is the having to reach out for help. Getting over the stigma of feeling like you've done something wrong, and I'm working every day, I'm doing this, I'm doing everything right, I shouldn't need to have to reach out and rely on these services. But as we mentioned earlier, things have changed. You haven't done anything wrong, but the environment has changed, the costs are going through the roof. It's not the same society that we knew 10, 15 years ago. Things have changed radically in that time. And that's also one of the things that we've seen, we've talked about prepaid billing. That's one of the things that we saw with prepaid is that folks seem to think that, there's some sort of stigma. Everybody always pays their bill at the end of the month. That's the way you're supposed to do it. No. Like we said, data is key, and that is an invaluable way for people to be able to know exactly how much they're spending on their electricity every day and making their budget. And this is the same type of thing. It's an invaluable resource to be able to, there's so much out there that a lot of times you don't know where to start looking. And so you need somebody to help you guide you through all the options that you're out there, and you turn to the experts. And so there shouldn't be any stigma associated with things have got. Like I said, even in my household, I'm having to budget. I'm having to say, okay, am I gonna do this now, or I'm gonna do that now? I gotta put this off. It happens to everybody. And so being able to take advantage of those resources is imperative.
We completely agree. I remember my first job was making about $15,000 out of college, and I signed up for the budget. You pay the same amount every month, and it adjusts at the end of the year for that. And I'll be honest, we've continued to do that through this day. It's just so nice knowing what you have to pay,
right?
Yeah.
And having it so transparent, just to show you here's what your bill was, here's how much you're paying, and just being able to keep track of it. Like, I would encourage everyone to do it. It's just such an easy budgetary fix, and it's one of those services that you don't think about that everyone should take advantage of.
Yeah, and I had a really great public school experience coming up, K through 12, but I don't remember budgeting being something they taught.
Not at all.
So what a wonderful resource, when you've got folks who just, okay, how do I approach this? Because surprises, especially when you're cash strapped, can be very hard to overcome.
Yes.
And just basic fluctuations seasonally, with electric or water, having a plan and having options is really the gold standard.
Yeah, and we see a lag between when people actually experience the costs and then when they seek it.
Yeah.
For example, in August, you all recall, we had a week where there was just nonstop rain. I think we got 14 inches of rain in 4 days. It was a crazy rain period. But anyone who had shift work that was outdoors missed all of those hours of shifts. Right. And in late September, early October, we saw a pretty large spike of folks coming to our centers. Yeah. We expect to see similar in January and February after year end.
Right.
And so we encourage folks to come sooner rather than later. Reach out to 211, come to our centers. Don't wait until you're behind on a bill or don't have food on the table for your children. Yeah. Come sooner rather than later, and we'll be able to then bring those resources to bear sooner so you don't have that crisis that can be very, very scary and quite honestly, for many folks can be very traumatic. And so please, as you see it coming, be proactive and take those steps sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Well, and, so many families that we encounter who need assistance, they live in almost a chronic stress because if it's not one thing, it's another. And, but as much need as there is in the Tri-County, there's people with so many blessings. So, DJ, if somebody is looking to share their time or their talent or their treasures with Trident United Way, what are some options?
Yeah, that same number, 211, can get people connected with a few different ways. One is volunteering. We see this time of the year in particular, but year-round, we see this is a very generous community when it comes to their time. And we see companies wanting to do that, but we also see individuals raising their hand. And so reach out to us. That database we have of nonprofit services also has a database of nonprofit. And we really pride ourselves in connecting caring human beings who want to make a difference in their neighbors to those volunteer opportunities. And if they let us know their passion, we can usually connect them with someone who works on that, which is pretty rewarding for us knowing that. And for a nonprofit, the average hourly savings for an hour of volunteering, according to the recent independent sector survey that came out over the summer, is $39 in savings to the nonprofit.
Okay.
So it's the same as donating $39 an hour to that nonprofit that they'd have to pay for those services elsewhere. And so we encourage everyone to do that. It helps their dollars then go to the mission. And so volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. The second is they could make a donation. We have a very exhaustive database of where our nonprofits are. We're happy to connect individuals if they ask us to nonprofits that are doing amazing work around, again, where their passion are. They could also consider a gift to United Way. And then we see a number of workplaces wanting to engage, not only in volunteering, but also in doing everything from a campaign where they could raise money to actually adopting families or doing other things.
Day of Caring.
Day of Caring.
Yep.
We are embedding a lot of our services now within HR departments at companies so that we can help augment their EAP program, not replace it. And so we encourage any company that's thinking about that to come to us, and we'll talk about how we can have some of our services there to help them retain employees, but also to support those employees in their challenging times. And then don't be afraid to call if you need any help or need any questions. Again, we are happy to connect folks. What's really great about United Way is we operate on behalf of the entire nonprofit sector.
Right.
And so none of us are competitors at the end of the day. We're here to uplift families. And any nonprofit who's doing that, we are happy to connect them with.
Terrific. So if someone's looking for more information about Trident United Way, where you mentioned 211, are you on social media, website?
Yeah, tuw.org is our website. Almost everything I'm talking about is right there and very easy, especially at the top. Whether you want to find volunteering, donating, or getting assistance, it's right there, always at the top of the site. Ooh, just hit your microphone. Sorry about that. And then we also are available on social media. So go into your favorite social media, Trident United Way. It'll pop right up. We also have newsletters that folks can sign up for that'll tell them what's going on in the community, everything from volunteer opportunities to needs. And then last, if individuals are interested in getting plugged into us to help us meet needs, we have a lot of committee and volunteer opportunities internally for folks to plug in. And so that's several ways they can. And again, if we aren't the right fit for them, we are more than happy to connect them to the organization that is a much better fit for their philanthropic passion.
We're actually very excited. We're doing our Day of Caring here in January. Yes. So we'll be out there in the community doing our part. But
well, and the last I looked, if we go back 10 years or so with Berkeley Electric Co-op, you're talking literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings to nonprofits based on the hours that your staff has volunteered.
Yeah.
And to have that type of civic engagement, everything from, I know you've all volunteered, everything from schools to food insecurity to helping landscape a nonprofit so they have an attractive thing for their clients. Like lots of projects you've all been a part of. I think you've even participated in a home building for some groups. So I really appreciate the work you all have done to really say that's a priority, but then investing your staff's time because it makes a huge difference across the Tri-County.
Well, we hold Trident United Way as one of the gold standards. You guys have such great reporting. You can show the impact that the dollars and the hours is making. There's just so much accountability and just so much knowledge that is brought to helping change people's lives.
Well, thank you.
Folks, this has been an amazing episode, and thank you for tuning in to Power Talk. This is the official broadcast of your electric cooperative. And you can catch up on past episodes on streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio. And as always, get a behind-the-scenes look on Berkeley Electric's YouTube channel. So until next time, this is Power Talk signing off.